Hi, I think we're on.
Welcome.
This is really exciting to have our first webinar. And we can see our different visitors on this webinar and participants. And so we want to welcome you. It's really fun to have you here. We are going to take you through a first experience for us, being the hosts of a webinar in the school. And we are really looking forward to making this a learning experience for all of us and hearing back from you too on comments and on your feedback and your feelings about doing a different approach, having a different approach to learning.
Mm-hmm.
So all of you are who are now on your screen and see us on there. You have a button that you that is on your right. That is a Q&A button. I'm going to go to a slide where you can, or I'm going to show you that, and I think that David is going to help us with that. Can we just show the slide for a moment?
Yeah, sure. So if we do that, and this slide.
So we're sharing a slide with you.
I'm sorry, that's not the right slide. Let's try again. It looks like it's now available. That's okay. We can fix that quickly.
Some of you might have located that button. It's on the top right. It's an icon that will allow you to pose any questions or comments that you have.
And that's your slideshow.
You can also use social media for any of this. If you are with us on a mobile device, you won't have that Q&A. I think it's showing up now. It's on the red circle.
Yeah, you should see it on the screen right now. So you can always click on that for, like Miss Paula said, a question, comments, a wondering, anything that maybe when you read the article too came up to you and connected with you. So let's talk about the article we sent. It was written about the book called Raising Happiness by Dr. Christine Carter. And personally, one of the reasons we chose this book as a reading in the early childhood division is because it is one of our favorite parenting books, and one that I, as you saw maybe from reading my personal blog, has really been important in our family and a lot of the strategies used as we transitioned, specifically living in Quito, Ecuador, from our home in Seattle, Washington. So the article we sent out was kind of a summary of raising happiness, and it talked about some key points that we as parents can do to really recognize those feelings, the emotions that occur, and to help our children and ourselves really raise that happiness. So mindfulness came up in the article that she talks about, the 3 positives, focusing on gratitude, all of those things, which hopefully we'll get a chance to talk about today. All right.
So one of the things that we thought that we would do at this time is ask you to type in perhaps something that connects with you that connects with the reading and experiences that you might have had, and perhaps any questions that you have as well about raising happiness and reaction to it. Some of you might have even read the book and purchased it. So we're going to give you a little time if you want to pose some questions or comments. You can.
Oh yes, we are on Twitter. So if you want to tweet hashtag AC Community, I have my phone here too, and I'll be kind of watching for those questions or comments as well as that come through. On Twitter, you just have to whatever question and then hashtag AC Community. It's capital A, capital C, and then.
All right. So I have a question that has come in, and thank you, Tanya, for asking a question. Thank you for our participants. It's great to have you here. So the question is, how do you identify happiness? In the article, Dr. Carter talks about mindfulness, and it's the next, it's in her first chapter as well as one of the steps. And when speaking about mindfulness, she really encourages parents to be aware of what their own feeling is of happiness, and then helping children be able to identify their own feeling of happiness. And so more than that external identification of happiness, it is the child's own identification of the state that they are in, and connecting with their feelings. As parents, I think that speaking to your children and gauging from them, not with the question of, are you happy, but questions that provoke a more in-depth conversation with them will give the feeling of where they are. And so those conversations are really critical.
I think
to get to know
listening
them.
too. I know when my kids were little, I used to think talking was the best just because language development, talk, 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 that's what you hear about. But now they're finding research really shows that parents who listen not only helps their language development because it gives the children opportunity to talk, but it helps them emotionally. So when parents are listening and really present with their children more than anything, you can tell, I think, where your child is. And the one thing that Dr. Carter talks about too, and I think you probably noticed in that article, was our children aren't always going to be happy. We're not always happy. That is how life is. We have lots of different feelings, and those feelings are okay. And listening to all different feelings is good. The one thing, though, that you want to watch for is if it's a constant. If you're noticing there aren't moments of happiness in your child's lives, you're not hearing those laughs anymore, you're not seeing those smiles, that's, I think, when you want to even listen more. But it's natural, of course, for your kids to feel all sorts of feelings. And actually, our counselor is here today, and later on we'll talk a little bit more about that.
So the recommendation that, or the process that Dr. Carter takes parents through her book, and actually a series of workshops that you can sign up for that are webinars, and it's the whole parent training that she offers through her website. But in her book, she takes parents through there are 10 steps, and based on also research, she really pretty much guarantees that you will get to that good place where happiness is the predominant feeling, not only for your child, but for your family in following these steps. And so we're going to talk about the first step here on our next slide. Great. And so her first step, she focuses on mindfulness and the concept of really being aware of where we are in holistically. And the recommendation is to put on your own oxygen mask first. As parents, we know that that is easier said than done. Even when I'm on a plane and I have, my children with me, especially the youngest one, and you get that announcement on the plane, I always think twice, what if? And you really have to prepare yourself to say yes. In order for me to take care of my children and of my children's feelings, I do have to take care and understand my own first, and follow those steps. So in mindfulness, there are being mindful is being prepared, is really thinking about what are the actions that you need to take in order to be ready for what is coming. So it's like packing your suitcase and having a checklist when you are packing your suitcase, and not running to put things on on a whim before your trip comes. It's also about preventing instead of reacting. With parents, we are constantly faced with times when something new happens, or when perhaps a behavior that was undesired is right in front of us from our children, or a sadness comes that we didn't expect. So there are times also when children are going to be faced, like Joy said, with moments that might not be so happy. And so we prepare them for that. We prevent that by setting a stage, a family stage that is supportive, by helping our children to have a suitcase filled with happy times, with positive thoughts, with positive moments. It's the concept of the bank account, and having just a lot of money. When they need to take some money out, they still have a lot left there. And so that prevention comes from appreciating every positive moment that exists in our life. And if we model that in just being grateful for, arriving 5 minutes earlier because traffic was better, or being grateful because it was a really sunny day, or being grateful because it happened to be that, everyone loved dinner, and savoring those special moments is really key, so that they have that positive feeling inside, and they also know what to expect. So preparing our children for situations, and talking to them about what their questions are about new situations, or what their also solutions are to problems, and helping them go through that problem solving process.
Paula, like you said, it's easier said than done. And so we just had a question come in, and it says, how do you balance that? Putting your oxygen mask on first.
So in a plane, again, it's really, if you go back to that moment, there isn't actually a balance that happens. You just do it first. It's really telling, and having a plan for you that you are going to go through that process initially in order for you to be ready for them.
So you're saying, like, you really need to be thoughtful about this process of taking care of yourself. I think that, your health-wise, creating balance in your own life professionally, so that you have space for your child. So when they do something that maybe is not the choice, it's not an automatic snap, right? That you've already thought about this before and thought, okay, I'm really tired. I worked late last night, but I'm going to slow down before I react, and so you've already thought through what if these things happen, so that you do react in a way where you've thought about these emotions beforehand. Because as this whole theme for this talk is how we act, is also often how we're perceived, especially by our children. And that makes a huge difference. How we react to all sorts of situations, but especially them.
Right. What is true, though, is that it's not always possible for you, or there's some emergency modes that you go in, and you might not have your lunch, right? And you are is not more important than that. And it's not taking it to an extreme, because when you do have children, of course, they are going to always be your priority. But mindfulness is about really understanding what your needs are and taking care of them, your emotional needs, and being prepared for others. Yeah. So
we have another question too. And I think one thing that you find if you purchase the book, or if you have read it, is that Dr. Carter really does believe when parents are happy, which means you're not always going to be happy all the time too, but when you're taking care of yourselves, you're living a life that you're passionate about, you're living a healthy life, you're doing things that make you happy, you're kids will often be happy. And this is all research based. So I wanted to say that about this book, that a lot of this is based in research, and that we know that families who are happy, actually the children are happier. And when children are happier, they're more successful in school. They have more friends. They're well liked. And we know that ties right into their self-confidence. So all of this has been researched really, and actually when they grow up, the research is there, that they actually have healthier lives when they have a more positive outlook on life, and healthy marriages and so on. And so this is like a cyclical thing that we can start now and build that with our children, which is, it's great to know and great knowledge to have. All right, we have another question. You want to read it, Paula?
Yeah. So the question is there a cultural component to displays of happiness? In other words, how do various cultures display happiness in different ways appropriate for their culture? Not all cultures are the same. Not all people have the same approach. One of the steps in Dr. Carter's book talks about Build a Village, and I don't know if we can go to that. Let's go to that slide where Dr. Carter talks about how important it is to really build your family structure in a way that it is solid, but considering what your family identity is. And in this question, when about different cultures, it's so important in the lives of our community, especially because our community is a community that has families with very different backgrounds, very different models of families, and understanding what your family culture is critical. I would recommend for all of our families to learn, if you haven't, and share your learnings about your children living in a culture like ours. The concept of third culture kids that David Pollack and Ruth Van Reken talk about is real understanding children who are being brought up in cultures that are different than their parents for a significant amount of time. And so parents understanding that their children are living different life, and even in thinking about happiness, that they might even express happiness in a different way that they expressed happiness when they were growing up. But it's really understanding that happiness is a feeling that one has, and each family can talk about what is that expression of happiness. You know, is it always smiling and it was always laughing and it is always cheering? Or is a happy moment for some families getting together, gathering around a book and reading together? So what are those? And it really is personal.
For sure. And that's what my blog was about. Obviously, my kids obviously are third culture kids now. And so I wrote about that transition. That's a big transition that many of us actually in this international community face, whether we're here in Ecuadorian, even kids coming to an international school. That's a new culture. They're with different kids maybe than their parents grew up, maybe not in an international school. So it's interesting, and I love this topic. I'm learning more about it. And obviously, I used a lot of Dr. Carter strategies with my own children as they transition into a new school, but also a new country and culture. And we have, 50% of our community is expat and 50% of our community is Ecuadorian, but yet all of us in this school, Academia Cotopaxi, this is a culture in itself. So being aware to honor our children and where they're at in this process and learning, and also our learning, I think, learning about this culture. It's important that our parents then become involved and get to know the peers that their children are hanging out with and the families and their traditions, their celebrations. I think is really important so that you have the opportunity to talk to your children about those as well.
And that connects with building a village, right? And extending your relationships, other relationships to the families, that you meet through your children as well. I was thinking about an example about different expressions of happiness, and I was thinking of happy birthday. So happy birthday is, is the birthday song, right? And the birthday song in different cultures is is very different. And even the level of voice that is used, where some it's common, it's all about celebrating, and it's all about life, and it's all about happiness. You know, the 5-year-old's birthday party is always going to be about happiness. But recognizing that different cultures will do it in different ways. And with those examples that are concrete for those differences, and how those differences don't mark good or bad, and just recognizing that they exist, and how people react around those.
And I think with our strategic plan and our mission of our school is about creating those kids who are empathetic and global learners, and that this environment totally allows us to honor those celebrations and the differences in a really great way.
We're going to go back to our slide, and is that how I do it? Can I click on the next one, or I actually want to go up a little?
Okay, this is a great time to bring our amazing early childhood counselor into the picture. We're going to talk about raise intelligence. I'm sure many of you have heard how important emotional intelligence is. In fact, a lot of research, current research, is showing that it's even more important than our academic intelligence, that how we get along and understand ourselves and our self-awareness and how we cooperate and collaborate with others is huge and, successful. So we have Miss Tanya here, and she's going to join our conversation. She's going to be talking about why it's important to identify feelings. She's also going to talk about 4 zones that she's doing with a lot of our children here, with pre-KK and second graders and some first graders, and the importance of modeling positive ways to deal with our emotions.
Okay. Well, I have had the pleasure of talking to many parents already about the zones. We did the first invitation that some parents came and we shared this, but research says that to enhance emotional intelligence, you have to be able to teach kids how to recognize them, and in conversations and in daily opportunities. Oh, I see that you are sad. Like, they don't know the feelings vocabulary. So for example, in our pre-kinder class, we had all the feelings units, and it was really neat to see and to teach kids, when you have a smile, you're happy. If somebody is crying, is sad. So
And that's
identifying
okay, right?
feelings,
Yeah.
it's super important. And to make sure that they understand that every feeling is okay, and that anybody and everybody has the right
Can I show
to
that
talk about
chart real
feelings.
quick?
Yeah.
So what I love about how Tanya works with the kids too, she talks about these different zones, that your feelings are okay, and the kids know that, but that if we stayed in one zone the whole time, we wouldn't really be a balanced person and a healthy person. So she talks about how if we're in the red zone, what are some strategies to get us back into the green zone? From if we're mad, angry, afraid, how can we get back to happy, calm, and focused so we're ready to learn?
So one of the things we're doing, for
Show this.
example, in second grade,
See if I can show it a little.
the kids have this little stripe right on their desks, and the teachers say at any time, okay guys, zones check in, and the idea is that they will go and say, okay, I am happy, focused, calm, I'm ready to learn, I'm here. So then the teacher will say, okay, thumbs check. So if she sees that everybody's doing this, we're doing great. If somebody does this, the teacher knows that that child needs to go to the special zones area or feelings area, where they have a menu of alternatives. And the idea and what we're doing is, if they feel sad, what it is that they need to do to come here. And one of the strategies is to use the inner coach, to tell yourself,
The self-talk.
the self-talk, to tell yourself, I am in control, I can do this, what do I need? Do I need to breathe? Do I need to do jumping jacks? Do I need to push the wall? So this is the work we're doing beginning in pre-kinder.
So how can parents at home help with this, help reinforce this skill of emotional intelligence and raise this in their kids at home?
Okay, one of the most important things for parents is to have conversations, to have structured times when they talk to kids, when they listen to kids, and they talk about, even I am feeling sad today. Now I need to calm down. I need to breathe. I need to get a cup of coffee. But talk, identify the feelings, and to sit and read a book. I read it, let's dance, or I'm super happy. We need to see us being role models and making sure that we talk about feelings and what to do when we feel a certain way.
So there's a question here that we have, and that ties into what you were saying, Tanya, about identifying ways to find happiness from within. And I think that's what you're talking about, right?
The inner coach.
The inner coach. The question is about, I'm going to read it. In our world today, we can rely on material ways to be happy, like buying new toys, new tools, new experiences, instead of that inner coach, right? So what would be your advice about that? It is, we are opportunities, and they seem like quick fixes when a child is crying and feeling really sad, to say, if you stop crying, I'll buy you an ice cream. And we might stop crying in the thought of that ice cream.
And it's enjoying the small moments, right? It's making sure to teach kids to appreciate what they have, appreciate the small moments. It's not about the gifts. It's about the sharing the time. It's about hugging each other. It's about reading a book.
That's what
And
I
it's
want
about-
anyway, right? It's our time.
Yeah, and it's about thinking about things in a positive way.
And really giving them your time, the parents' time,
And quality
and the
time.
quality time,
quality
and not
time.
necessarily the material things.
Yeah, and what I have had several meetings with different parents, and what I ask them is, have a schedule so that they can know, they can anticipate, from 3 to 4, we're going to the park. Or on Friday, you're going to have a special dinner with dad. Have time, a specific time
Scheduled.
with mom, with dad. Schedule time so that they know and they appreciate and they see them thing to do. It's a good tool to do.
One thing Doctor talked about too was Dr. Carter was talking about. She doesn't talk about the zones. The researcher behind this is, remember who? Garcia. So, but what Dr. Carter was saying, I think in her book or the article, was how important even that connection. It was like 7 minutes of connection when you get home from work or something, just that checking in. I've been trying to do that like as a habit now. When I come home and see my kids, like I just go right to them. Oftentimes we come home and we're just like, okay, what did I miss driving home? Check your phone or whatever, or what's in the fridge or what's for dinner. But instead, go to your children, connect with them. Even they said 7 minutes or something made a huge difference for the rest of like their own behavior too. It was talking about how it affected their behavior all day.
And since research says that you have to take care of yourself as well, there are many parents that need to go home, have like a 5-minute break, disconnect with things, and then interact with the kids. So it depends on what it is that you also need. But they need to know, they need to have that balance, and they need to know, okay, after this or at this time, mom is going to be with me, dad is going to read me a book. So happiness is about showing kids to be positive, to see the glass half full instead of half empty. And it's modeling that way of being.
That goes into the growth mindset talk, which Dr. Carter talks about. She has specific, so you could go to her website. You could just Google Raising Happiness or Dr. Christine Carter, and you can go and under her book, she'll even give specific, it's called worksheets. And you can look at them, and one is just on growth mindset, and that's a huge value here in our AC community with our educators. And so it's awesome that as parents and as educators, if we are both encouraging this growth mindset in our children, what amazing things could happen. Polly, do you want to share some
Sure.
of those tips?
You can stay with us. Stay with us. Stay with us. We'll keep Miss Tanya here,
Oh,
right?
yes.
We all like to have her here. Let me just scoot in here. You can see us all. I think that
To get closer together.
there.
There you go. More cozy.
Yeah, kind of like when you do selfies, right? So, yeah, when we talk about mindset, there are two types of mindset. There's a fixed mindset, and in a fixed mind, being where they feel that how talents and personalities are there with you, and that's how they stay. And so you are born
Born
with
that
a
way,
certain,
yeah.
you were born with a certain ability, or you were born with a certain talent, and that's what you get, right? And so you do the best with that, with what you get. In a growth mindset, the belief in a growth mindset is that with effort, that really you can develop strengths and you can develop abilities and you can develop attitudes and feelings. And so if you're in a fixed mindset, that's where you're going to be, right? You're going to be fixed. If you are involved and believing in a growth mindset, you know that with effort, you can get to better places. And that doesn't only apply to emotions, right? But to all aspects of life. And so Dr. Carter, one of hers is about identifying where you are in your mindset too, and developing your own strategies to live constantly in a growth mindset fashion. And so for our children also to know that in your feelings, if you are feeling down, if you are feeling sad, you can always have your strategies to continue to work on it to get out of that, right?
And to
that we
see
can manage that.
Yeah.
We can manage our feelings
Exactly.
by the strategies that we learn.
And talking
Yeah.
about it, it's okay for our kids to know that we're not feeling happy at this moment. It's okay for kids to know that, you know what, I am angry because this happened. Like separating to foundation, right? Sometimes I have some kids that say, oh, but I always mess up things. And I'm like, no, honey, you're not messing anything. What you just did is not a good choice, but it's not you. Like separating the misbehavior from the child
Exactly.
so that you can also separate the moments of what it is that you do and how you behave.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really key. We're going to go to our next slide, to one of her other steps. Oh, there. So
Yeah, dinner conversations, right? That is huge with Dr. Carter. And I wrote about it in my blog as well, that the importance is crazy. The research says that kids who have parents, I mean, really, there was this extensive study done, and they found that the one variable was that they had dinner together as a family, that these children became successful and and had great emotional intelligence. And those are those conversations where you're listening to your child, that you're maybe focusing on the 3 positives, which Dr. Carter talked about. Give us 3 positives of your day. So they really are focusing on, okay, and reflecting on what happened good today. And it helps with routine, which Ms. Tanya talked about, and just showing them that you're there and you're present and making it part of your family kind of traditions, what we were talking about. And maybe it's not dinner, maybe it's breakfast, maybe, it's some other time you fit in that works best for you. And making a commitment really to do that. And maybe if you can't do it every night, maybe you have certain nights that everyone's home together. So this is a huge one.
One of the things that I have talked to some parents is you can join, we have many, many parents that travel, but you can join, if possible, the dinner time through Skype. You don't need to be there, but it's important that they know that there's this time where we are together.
Together, yeah.
And research that shows that families that eat together stay together. In this day when there are so many families that break up and go through hardship, this is one of the things that keeps families together.
Yeah.
And especially in transitions,
conversation.
it's huge.
Yeah, exactly. That's helped us a ton through our
Uh-huh.
transition of moving here. But it's definitely research based. We do have some tweets coming in. Let's see. We'll take you to one tweet. It had to do with the question was, what feel able to build that village, especially in a new culture where there's a new language? How do you even start?
So you don't come here alone. You bring your luggage. You bring your history with you. So whatever you used to do, you need to start doing here.
Mhm.
So if it was having lunch together, it's having lunch together. It's having those routines, rules, expectations create self-esteem in kids. So it's super important. That village is your immediate family. So
And then you
need to-
continue, and then you continue
exactly.
extending,
Then you
right?
continue to extend, but you concentrate first on your own village. And how do you do it? Always following your culture, following your family traditions, because every family is a village. So then you connect to the others.
I think that here we're at a beautiful advantage in our community because we played and families can certainly take advantage of that, especially if you are new to our community. It only takes that one time where you set up a play date, and it doesn't have to be in your home because you're not sure, you don't know, it can be complicated. So I always, when talking to parents, I recommend that they make it easy. They make it easy for everyone when they have a play date, because that gives the children an opportunity to be playing and the parents an opportunity to get to know each other and to know other adults that are new in the culture, and to find commonalities with people, and also find interesting aspects that they didn't know about, like new learnings, and be able to share also from their culture to enrich the lives and the learning of others about those traditions that Tanya is talking about, and those things that happen at home. And parents should feel excited about asking questions to other families about how, if they were a family who was new, how they went through a transition, what worked for them, and always focusing on what worked for you, right? And sharing also what worked for themselves in those transitions, and that success, always sharing that success.
In our meetings, when I have parent meetings and we're meeting with the teachers, part of the transition always is set up play dates. And we give them the list of numbers and, talk to your kids when you have dinner. So who did you play today? What do you have in common? Do they like Star Wars? Did you play in the sandbox? One of the wonderful things we have in our lower school is a specific different place for them to play. So they could Monopoly with you today. Different situations, and take what we say, have that friendship outside. Like if you're creating these villages outside, then that friendship comes inside of the school, and that helps create that transition and that self-confidence.
How about the language piece, though? That can be a struggle, when parents, like the kids are speaking English and usually Spanish, but then the parents, sometimes there might be a barrier there. So what advice do you give?
But there are plenty of parents to choose from, right? There are parents that speak Portuguese, Spanish. The Asian community has, it's more difficult for them because there are not many of them. But what I find amazing is that because we put the child in the middle and we know that that's important, the parents talk through gestures. They have the cup of coffee. I mean, it's amazing to see how many wonderful friendships have come up from gestures. The
Language is
will
more
come.
than just speech, right? It's our
Exactly.
body language, it's our smiles, it's our hugs, it's our handshakes, everything.
And our
So,
our willingness to put
Yeah.
ourselves out there so that our children have this opportunity.
Yeah, I also think that when thinking about language, if you have then if that is the case, if you have more than one family, like if you're in a family that only speaks English and you're going to be with the family that you feel the parents only speak Spanish, then you can talk about a third family, right? A third family that comes into to this interaction, to create that. Also, we're very fortunate because a lot of that we can use social media and communication through written ways and families. So when we're setting up a play date, because we know that the mother or the father doesn't speak the same language, instead of making a phone call, you do it over an email or WhatsApp.
WhatsApp.
One of the things an app to translate to Korean what we were saying to a child. And now the mom is communicating with other families through this app that Andrea Ibarra found. That
Remember the name of it?
We can
We'll have to
find it
share
later,
that.
but it's an
that'd
app.
be
I'm sure
helpful.
David knows about.
Oh, that's
plenty
great.
of-
Yeah, I think that's awesome.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so you can use that.
That
Yeah,
brings
Google
me
Translate,
back
you see.
to when our kids are happy, we are happy. So Dr. Carter talked about when us parents are happy, then our kids are happy. But it also, I think, like I wrote in the blog, it's like the chicken or the egg, right? When we have happy kids, when we see our kids happy and making friends and having
We're
great
happy too.
relationships, then we are finally like, whew, okay, happy. And then we can try to also extend and have this. But I think especially, or maybe we've been here for a long time, but any type of new relationship, how that is, but it
Yeah.
grows each child,
And-
Can you speak to that about how, like Dr. Carter might say, that might raise happiness and creating those new relationships with kids who are different than them?
Well, one of the amazing things about our school is that we celebrate differences, right? So children are every day looking at not only like you are you as an individual, and we celebrate you. So yes, having this fluid mind and making sure that we celebrate every success, every person for what they are makes us happy. And it's
Yeah.
looking at the positive. It's concentrating on what is the wonderful thing about the other person. What is the wonderful thing about the day? Like those small moments. You know how we do the
Yeah.
small moments in moments and savoring those.
Yeah.
So can I just interact there? And when we're focusing on all this positive, right? There are times when we recognize that we are just truly sad, right? And that no matter what happens and what's around us, there might be an event in our life, in the lives of our children that just make us sad. And as parents, we also have to balance that and just allow for sadness to have its process,
Yeah.
right? And not necessarily. And so it's a balance,
Balance.
right?
And
And
it's-
knowing up to when you support your child to go through that process.
And it's always about talking. It's communicating. It's understanding what the other person is going through. And you cannot pretend that everything is going to be happy. When you are transitioning from one place here, trying to make a new friend, and you're trying to understand the different circumstances that child is bringing and the culture or whatever, yes, there are times when you're sad. Today I had a conversation at 8:00 with these parents who I hope they are joining us because we said that they should, or they might want to. The child was super sad. So what do we do? What's the strategy? Talking. If we don't know, if as counselors, if your child's teacher, if we don't know what's going on at home, if we don't know that your child is sad, we cannot support you. So please tell us. We are a support team. And at home, if you see your child sad, then it's super important to say, honey, I understand. I see that you're sad. Let's think about it. What can we do? What can you do? What do you need? What can I think identify like the inner coach? Do you need to breathe? Do you need to rest? Do you need me to read a book? Do you need to go to the park? What is it? But it's not about, do you need me to buy you a new
Right.
game? You know, it's never about that.
Yeah, and that's where that modeling comes in too. That's so important that we do.
Exactly.
Like I'm really sad right now. I just need to take a break, or I need to go read a book. I need
Because
to
that
go-
helps me.
Yeah, because that helps
Yeah.
me. And
And of course, you're not going to be sad all the time,
Right.
right? Even
That's
if you're
when- yeah.
sad, you need to, if you
they
need,
see that.
if you need help,
Mhm.
you know, please come and talk to us. But it is important that, yes, they see you. Oh my God, I was working on this. I just lost my whole work in the computer.
Mhm.
I'm frustrated. What can I do?
Yeah.
But it is important also that we provide these filters and that they know,
Mhm.
and we make sure that they understand and they believe wholeheartedly that they are going to be okay. And that, so yes, as parents, we also say, oh, you know, I don't like this or that, but it's not communicating anything and everything. And it's not telling them, you know, I'm sad all the time if you're sad. We need to protect that and create those barriers to protect them.
Mhm.
Imagine if all our kids could do that, really identify how they were feeling, why they're feeling that, and then, okay, it's okay, or now I need to do this
Mhm.
to get to feeling this, right?
And
That would
that's
be
the idea.
so powerful. I mean, think of
Yeah.
all the
Mhm.
adults that we know.
And continue
that
to
would
develop the
benefit them as
strategies
well, yeah.
based on that moment that you experienced.
Yeah. And how
If
much,
they never experience
Yeah.
sadness, if they've never,
Yeah.
and it's inevitable, right? They
right.
would never be able to
And
get
it's
to
your,
that point.
it is your
learning.
own strategy too.
It is.
You
It's
know,
your
we,
personal strategy.
yeah, we do have
Yeah,
like
that's
the
true.
tools
That's
and
a good
specific
point,
tools,
yeah.
but what works for me might not work for
Yes.
you, might
Mhm.
not work for Miss
Exactly.
Paola. So
Yeah. So Carter takes us through, and I think that we've done 2.5. And but I do want to take you through another one that we have, which is we can either do this. We don't have a lot of time. We can do
Gratitude.
gratitude, or
Yeah, that was the one.
yeah, let's go to
Left.
gratitude. We have gratitude there.
This one.
Yeah.
It's under
Oh, here.
that.
Yeah.
Yes, have it. Yeah.
and we talked about gratitude a little bit when we
Mhm.
said, you know, teach your kids to appreciate the little things. The other thing is don't expect perfection. Make sure that you praise effort. And praising is huge.
Yeah.
It has to be specific. It has to be, you cannot praise all the time because it loses its meaning. So it
Yeah.
has to be specific. It has to be effort based. Our is not the final product, it's the motivation and it's the effort.
Mhm.
So that also has to be with gratitude and
Yeah.
happiness.
And Dr. Carter talks a lot about this. Gratitude is something we spend a lot of time here in the fall, in November and December, talking about with our children as we built that gratitude rock garden, and it was very powerful. And research shows this. Research shows that people who practice gratitude feel considerably happier than those in other, say, control groups. They feel more joyful, enthusiastic, interested, determined, and strong. People who practice gratitude are also more likely to be both kind and helpful to others. And so those are the people that's the future. Those are the, what we want to teach. There's 3 strategies that Dr. Carter talks about in her book. But there's many more, obviously, that you can just Google gratitude and you'll find so many things you can do. Journal. And it doesn't have to be big things that you're grateful for. It can be little things. And maybe you don't even have to write them down. Maybe it's just talking about them. That's one thing that we added to our dinner conversations and our family was one thing they're grateful for. And so
And
that
one of
is
the
great
things,
too.
one of the things that you might want to
Mm-hmm.
do just then is at dinner time, what am I thankful for?
Mhm.
And before you come to school,
Mm.
what am I going to look for? I am
Mhm.
happy to go to school.
Mhm.
I'm grateful to go and see Miss Carla or
Yeah.
whatever.
Mhm, that's a good
Finding
point.
those opportunities
Mhm.
to, slow down and
Mhm. And that was the
enjoy
next
it.
strategy. Slow down and savoring those good experiences. So when my kids, for instance, were having trouble transitioning, when we were in these places on these travels, I would just be like, wow, we could never be doing this if we were, and we just look around, look at this. And so amazing that we're in the Amazon and we're seeing a tarantula right now. Like this could never have happened before.
And,
And that-
sorry, can I just
yeah.
add to that, because, and I've heard you do this, Joy, and it's wonderful. When you see something, then connecting it to the feeling.
Mhm.
So when I see the sun, up in the sky for more than, an hour,
Mhm.
it just makes me feel positive. It makes me want
Yeah.
to smile. So you
My
connect
kids
this
know that,
amazing thing.
especially this.
Yeah, you connect these amazing things and
Yeah.
the things that you encounter immediately with the feelings, so that you are helping the children understand how what is around them can impact the way that they feel.
And we need to know that we cannot take for granted that kids know how to express their feelings and how to recognize their feelings. So
Must be
all of us
explicit
that
teaching,
work
yeah.
with little kids, we need to
Mhm.
tell them, we
Yeah.
need to show them, we need to make sure that that's having the feelings vocabulary, feel to the feelings that I need to work on
Mhm.
is the basis for being happy.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
True. The last thing Dr. Carter suggested was just gratitude letters. So whether how big, how small, that we as parents encourage our children to really be thankful for when someone gives them a gift, or even just someone helps them out, or maybe even thanking them for saying something nice to them, so that we are encouraging our children and our little ones, they can have their attempts at their letters too. They're little writers too, and draw pictures and so on. So I think all those strategies that she talks about in her book are helpful as well.
And like you say, research shows that the more grateful you are, the more happy you are. It's how you make others feel, how you recognize the wonders of others impacts directly on how you feel. So gratitude is
Yeah. And
important.
attitude, focus on the consistency of that,
Yes.
attitude of expressing gratitude. So all the studies are on that daily expression of gratitude for an amount of time that then it becomes a habit. It becomes something that you are
Yeah.
constantly
And
doing.
we can connect that to praise, because praise has to be specific to
It's not
something.
just a good job or
Exactly. And so if we're grateful and we're telling them, I really appreciate how you helped me set the table today. So it has to be specific so that it's meaningful.
Mhm.
There is a study done on gratitude about people who just
Write down.
wrote down daily what they were grateful for, and compared to people who made like 30,000 more a year or
Mhm.
something, the people who wrote in their journal were way happier. Like
Mhm.
they
Yep.
was comparing.
And it's that
the-
consistent daily
Yeah.
habit of expressing gratitude.
Yeah.
So we're getting close to the end of comments or questions. We have, I think, people who have had to leave. We currently have 9 viewers. We had close to 20 viewers at one time, and so that's part of what we are looking at in this format. So I just want to make sure we give people time to give us a little feedback.
There's
on-
one there
on what
that
they have
says
seen.
Tanya something, but I don't, I'm not able to read it.
We addressed
We
that.
talked
Okay,
that
good.
one. This one we didn't.
Mhm. So we have one
A
other
comment.
comment. We've talked about that one too. I think I missed it, but I think we talked about it. It's important not to either overreact when a child is sad or to ignore a child expressing sadness or to dismiss their feelings. Yeah.
Well, and then we
So
talked
important.
about the tantrums and what to do. And there's so much research, we have to know misbehavior, getting attention, getting power, feeling inadequacy, or revenge. And we need to know that there's lots of research that show us how the child's behavior makes me feel, tells me what it is that the child needs and why the child is misbehaving. So yes, we need to make sure that we understand why the child is behaving a certain way, what is the winning, what are they getting from our reaction, to make sure that we don't react in a certain way for a certain behavior.
Or what are they not getting from us?
Exactly. What
Yeah.
do they need?
Great. I don't see any other questions coming in. I think that we are going to invite you to continue communicating with us. You can communicate on our blog as well, and comment Listing some of the resources that we talked about today, and links to the different websites and authors that we have touched on our blog. Okay, so we hope that you have enjoyed this webinar, and we hope to see you in our
The
next
next one.
session.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.